The Robert Charles riots began. When blacks in New Orleans became infuriated after Robert Charles, a black man was shot several times. By 12 on July 23, 19, a manhunt for Charles, aka OG, Charles began after he ran after an altercation with New Orleans 12. The race riot lasted over 4 days and caused 28 bodies, including my boy OG Charles, who came to New Orleans from Mississippi and was a self-educated, articulate activist. He believed in self-defense for the black hoods and encouraged blacks in the United States to move to Liberia to escape racism. Late night of July 23, 19, 3 white officers, Sergeant Jules Seochan, Joseph de Cantrell, and August Timora, seen OG Charles and his roommate Leonard Pierce sitting on a porch in a mostly white neighborhood after some police harassment. Charles and Officer Mora got in a shootout. Nobody was killed. Charles escaped and ran to his house to get right. Later in the evening, the police interrogated Pierce to see where OG house was. When Pierce snitched, they arrived at OG house. But OG Charles aired them out, killing 2 officers, including the chief captain. While the rest of the officers hid for cover, Charles got out of there, leading to a police manhunt. This situation started because on April 23, 1899, Sam Jose, a black farm laborer, was lynched in Palmetto, Georgia, after killing his employer in self-defense. An execution train came from Atlanta to Noonan, GA. Over 1,000 people came to watch the hanging. The train driver was yelling, "All aboard for the burning." More than 80 black men and women were hung in the U.S. in 1899. Lynchings were nasty work. His ears, fingers, face, and private parts were cut off in front of a cheering crowd of white men, women, and children. After this humiliation, he was burned alive and his burnt body cut up for gifts. Slices of his heart and liver were offered for sale at 25 cents a slice. So OG Charles, a black laborer involved in the Back to Africa movement, began telling his friends to get guns, both to protect themselves and to prevent further lynchings. These were dangerous times in Louisiana. There was a campaign underway to take away voting for black people. The number of registered black voters fell from 134.44 in 1896 to 5,320 in 1898. The newspapers were full of warnings of a race war, with one paper arguing that the extermination of the black population would be necessary unless they accepted rule by an iron hand, and another option, either deportation or sterilization. There was a routine of everyday attacks of black neighborhoods. OG Charles had had enough. On July 23, 19, OG Charles and his friend Leonard Pierce were waiting for 2 girls when they were approached by 12, who accused them of loitering. One of the police began beating Charles. He got away. The police drew his gun and shot Charles, but Charles pulled out his FI and aired 12 out. Nobody was killed. Charles got away, but Pierce was arrested and snitched on. OG Charles Part 2 coming next.